For those interested in learning how to design and structure remote projection without being aggressive, is if you look into the world, it's important to see agendas and where energy is moving and where people are focused. That intensity creates ripples because each of us will respond to the stimulus around us. So when you walk around in the world, you'll hear people talking about Hollywood movie stars. You'll hear people talking about their favorite musical group, right? You hear about the mountain biking experience they just went on with their buddies. People will even bring up that dirty word like politics because it has great influence over large numbers of people. Even weather, the sun and the moon play a role in people's language and the way they communicate through their behavior and attitude. And their language will ooze from their emotions about their experiences. And you can see what they're thinking about and what they're feeling based on the words that they choose to use. Remote viewing is similar. Remote viewing is a way to organize your impressions from the expressions being emitted by the world itself. And remote viewing just allows you to be a little more sensitive. That's it. Just more sensitive, more receptive. We all have access to this. We're all connected to everything living. So, you organize these senses, these experiences, in a way that's understandable. So you have to have a vocabulary. You have to have a way to describe exactly what it is that you are receiving. Is it hard? Is it soft? Is it wet? Is it big? Is it small? Is it cold, right? All these things. You have to describe it in detail. And if you do not have a vocabulary or an understanding of a target in which you are viewing, because you don't have words to describe it, because you've never seen anything like it before, so you can't reference something similar, your mind will try to fill in the blank. Your mind will try and say, oh, well, it looks kind of like a piece of carpet, but, it's turned inside out. And so your brain doesn't, well, that one doesn't make any sense. So it tries to fill in everything. Okay? And this is how you can tell the difference between imagination and reality and what the target is really trying to express. So when you do remote projection, imagination will play a role in this process. So I would encourage you to really understand the difference between when you imagine something or when something's trying to impress upon you what it imagines itself to be, if that makes sense. Because remote projection is you moving yourself into the future, but you have to build a structure, a bridge, to connect those two timelines together in a way that you can control and manage it. Because you are aware of it. You have placed flags along your route to allow imagination to exist within a boundary. So that way the imagination desires to have exactly what you want as well through this relationship. This is part of remote projection. Now, I'll give you an example, but we'll talk about what's going on in Florida with voter fraud and things like this, allegedly. This also happened with Al Gore. And Al Gore won the popular vote. And all these same elements that's going on right now in Florida happened back then. So, the present has a connection to the past. The same language in which they are using today, they used back then. These triggers, these words are important because what remote projection does is it'll look at the difference between the reaction and the emotion and the spreading of words and concepts and ideas and feelings from their friends because everything's more connected now. That way they can analyze the difference between how people reacted back then to how people react now. This will allow them to build more accurate, refined, and defined models moving forward for a control matrix. This way you can allow more openness, more transparency by organizing the language in such a way as to gather, collect, analyze, and then promote the concepts, ideas, and language in which offer you the easiest and most effective way to reach your goal, your destination, whatever it is that you are aiming for. It's important that when you are building a future timeline, that you have a specific aim and goal that you want to reach. And that should be built into your target details. That way you can actually have a path and a way to retrieve that. And then you just leave it up to serendipity to decide how long it's going to take. Because when you put these things out into the world, these ripples have influences. And there are other influences that these things touch that they influence. So it takes time for all of these ideas and all of these concepts to percolate, to really be analyzed and chewed upon, because you don't want people to take things on face value. You want them to put them into practice and see if they work for themselves. And if they do, you receive good ripples back. This is like karma, if you will. This is another reason why remote projection should be taught in private, is because there is a cause and effect. And you better know what you're doing, because you don't want to accumulate bad karma. At least, or maybe some of you do. It's your choice. Your choice. So, remote projection. Know what you want and build your structure and your design to get that for you, to retrieve that. I posted a video 9 months ago about Ghost in the Room, which talked a little bit about this technology and how to perform it and what you can do with it. So you're welcome to go back and check that out. I thought I'd just give you guys an example of remote projection on a large scale, and then that way you can apply it and you can see the idea of what I mean about how rhythm and rhyme and frequency play a role even in time, how things are repeated. And through this repetition, you call upon this to return to you. It comes to you through this process, okay? You're building this like a ritual, similar to building a model based on intention, will, and desire. So, through this cooperation, you can build and have timeline management. But again, you can use the same technology to be aggressive. You can use it as a weapon. And I encourage you not to do that because of karma, okay? Because when you give permission for these things to take place aggressively, you are now responsible for your actions, for giving that power over you, so to speak. So that's how you maintain control and balance, is by non-aggression, no violence. You don't violate anything. Permission must be given, and that permission has to be given with full knowledge and support. You can't leave anything out, because if you do, there are other ramifications for that as well. And by doing these processes, it's like scalar. It's like building waves with sound and emotion, so they can plot future events. So you'll see these rhymes and these rhythms, because it keeps people interested. It keeps people's emotions flowing, and you can, what comes around goes around kind of thing. That you can keep it in motion. So there's a great movie out there to give you an idea of how timeline management plays a role in this too. It's called The One. I think it's with Jet Li. And in that movie, the alternative timeline is Al Gore is the president of the United States at the time. It's a window into how this technology works, how the programming works.